You know, for the longest time, we've been told the same thing. The path to wealth is all about the S&P 500, maxing out your 401k, and just saving diligently. But what if the single biggest lever you can pull for your financial future isn't even in your brokerage account? Okay, let's dive into this, because today we're exploring a really powerful idea that where you live might be way more important for your wealth than what you invest in. Just think about that for a second. We pour countless hours into researching stocks, trying to optimize our retirement accounts, and stressing about every little market dip. But what if the most important, high-stakes investment decision you ever make has nothing to do with a stock ticker? But what if it's actually tied to something as simple, as boring, as changing your address? I mean, this one idea completely flips conventional financial advice on its head. The source material for this argues that this single decision could have a bigger financial payoff than decades of perfect stock picking. So here's the big takeaway. We need a whole new way of thinking. It's time to stop obsessing over market timing, trying to buy the dip, and start focusing on what the source calls geographic timing. It's all about looking at your location with the same cold, hard analysis you'd apply to any other major investment.
All right, so first, let's talk about the problem. For years, the deal was pretty straightforward, right? You moved to a big, expensive city because that's where the high-paying jobs were. You paid that premium because the opportunity was worth it. But in our new remote-first world, well, that whole equation is completely shattered.
At the heart of this is a concept the source calls sticky inflation. And it's this really nasty kind of inflation where the big reasons for living in a major city, like having to be close to the office, have started to fade away, but the insane costs have stayed stubbornly or stickily high. And this creates a huge silent drain on your ability to actually build wealth. This really breaks down into three key things. First up, shelter. Your rent or your mortgage is almost definitely your biggest expense, and in these cities, it's not coming down. Second, you've got taxation. High-tax states have massive debts that, guess what, are eventually going to be paid by you. And finally, local services. I'm talking everything from getting a haircut to calling a plumber is just way more expensive, chipping away at your income every single day. But hey, where there's a problem, there's usually an opportunity. And that brings us to this powerful solution the source calls the Zoomtown arbitrage. Honestly, this is the big aha moment of this whole idea. And this example just perfectly illustrates the point. So let's take a software developer making a solid $200,000 a year. In California, a huge chunk of that salary just gets vaporized by an $8,000 a month housing payment and a massive 13.3% state income tax. But what happens if they take that exact same remote job to a state in the Sun Belt with zero income tax and way lower housing costs? Well, the entire picture changes even though their salary hasn't changed by a single dollar.
So, how much does it change? By over $5,000 every single month. And this isn't some one-time bonus. This is a permanent structural change to their post-tax cash flow, money that's freed up just by changing their zip code. And that is money that can now be invested and start working for them.
And here it is. This is the truly mind-blowing number. If that extra $5,000 a month is invested over 20 years, even at a pretty modest 8% return, it grows to over $2.5 million. Just let that sink in for a minute. A single move, a one-time decision, created a $2.75 million financial windfall. There is no stock pick on earth that could ever guarantee that.
Okay, so that's a pretty wild example, right? But how can you actually use this thinking for yourself? Well, to do that, you need a framework. The source suggests something called the Net Migration Alpha Score, or NMA for short, to help you analyze your own location just like a professional investor would.
So this NMA score is basically built on three core pillars. The biggest piece of the pie, at 40%, is the fiscal health of a place. We're talking taxes and government debt. Next up, at 35%, is economic gravity. Are high-paying jobs actually moving there? And finally, making up 25%, is the migration trend. Are people literally voting with their feet and moving in?
Let's dig into what each of these really means. Fiscal health is so important because, look, high taxes and huge city debts are really just a future tax on your income. Economic gravity matters because strong job growth is a huge signal that your home value is likely to go up and that high wages are there to stay. And the migration trend? Well, that's the ultimate vote of confidence. If smart, talented people are moving in, that's a pretty good sign of a healthy, growing economy.
So what does all this mean for you? Well, if you're living in a place with a low NMA score, think high taxes, people leaving, your wealth is basically being silently drained every single day. Your investments have to work twice as hard just to keep you afloat. But If you're in a high NMA area, your wealth gets this incredible, permanent tailwind, freeing up capital that can then compound and build your future.
This all leads us to the final, and I think maybe the most important takeaway from this whole analysis. The ultimate wealth hack in today's world, well, it might not be what you think.
It all comes down to this one word: control. Think about it. You can't control what the Fed does with interest rates. You can't control the next earnings report of a company you've invested in, but you have absolute 100% control over where you choose to live and set up your financial life. It's the one huge variable in this complex wealth equation that is entirely, completely up to you.
So we'll end with the big question that the source leaves us with. It's time to stop thinking of your home as just a place to live and start seeing it as the powerful financial tool it really is. So you have to ask yourself, is my home an asset, a liability, or is it the single biggest drag on my financial freedom? The answer could literally be worth millions.